The garage was quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes even the hum of a car engine feel like a roar. Down there, under flickering fluorescent lights, a young man sat on the cold concrete floor, his back against a pillar. His uniform was neat but worn, and his badge reflected a faint gleam whenever the flashlight in his hand moved. He had a thick book spread wide in front of him, its pages trembling slightly under the soft breath of the underground air. Every few seconds he paused, scribbled a note in a battered notebook, then returned to tracing the lines of the book with determined eyes. He looked exhausted, but he was fighting sleep with every ounce of will he had. And that's when it happened. From the far side of the garage, a woman in a long gray coat stepped out of the shadows. Her heels clicked against the concrete. She looked like any other professional, heading home late at night, except she wasn't. She was the CEO of the entire company, moving through the building undercover, trying to see the unseen. Her employees never knew her face this way, never expected her here. She stopped for a moment when her eyes caught the scene before her. A lone security guard, crouched on the floor, studying by flashlight like his life depended on it. Before I take you deeper into this story, I want to pause and say something. Stories like this remind us of resilience, quiet struggle, and the unexpected ways lives can change. If you believe in second chances, if you've ever fought for your dreams in silence, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And please, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps me bring you more powerful stories like this one. The woman's footsteps grew louder, and the guard finally noticed her presence. He sprang up, startled, trying to hide the book behind him as if he'd been caught doing something forbidden. His face burned with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he stammered. "I was just passing the time." But the CEO's eyes weren't angry. They were curious. "Passing the time?" she asked softly. "Or investing it?" The guard hesitated. His flashlight shook slightly in his hand. Finally, he whispered, "I'm studying for an exam, engineering. I want to finish my degree, but tuition, it's hard. I take this job at night and study when I can. Sometimes this is the only quiet place I get." His words echoed in the cavernous garage. For a moment, the CEO felt her chest tighten. She had built an empire, but here was someone building something far more personal. Hope, brick by brick, page by page, in the stillness of the night. His name was Daniel, orphaned young, raised by an aunt who barely had enough to feed them. He had learned early that survival required more than dreams. He had taken the guard job to pay rent, to keep food on the table, and to save painfully slowly for his education. Every night when other guards watched their phones or dozed in corners, Daniel chose to open a book. He had failed courses before, not because he lacked intelligence, but because exhaustion had stolen his focus. Still, he came back every time, unwilling to let go of the vision of himself as an engineer, a creator of something greater than what he had been handed. The CEO listened silently as Daniel spoke, her sharp mind cataloging every detail. But inside, something deeper stirred. Memories of her own youth, when she too had borrowed library books she couldn't afford and studied, under dim lamps that hurt her eyes. She had climbed her way up from hardship, but in her success, she had almost forgotten the fire that once burned in her. Over the next few days, she kept coming back, always dressed plainly, never revealing who she was. She asked Daniel about his dreams, his failures, his determination. She learned how he had been rejected from scholarships, how he walked miles to attend evening classes, how his friends had given up on him. But he carried their abandoned hopes as fuel for his own. Daniel was no ordinary guard. He was a man quietly defying the odds. But then came the hardest test of all. Daniel's aunt fell ill, the medical bills towering higher than anything he had faced before. His small savings vanished overnight. He considered quitting his studies altogether, resigning himself to full-time night shifts, telling himself maybe fate had chosen this path for him. For the first time, the CEO saw the fire in his eyes flicker. It was then she made her decision. One evening, she walked into the garage not as a stranger, but as herself. She carried no disguise, no hidden identity. Daniel nearly dropped his flashlight when he realized who she was. The face on the company's annual reports, the name etched into the headquarters glass tower. "I'm not here to fire you," she said with a smile. "I'm here to make sure you never give up." And with that, she offered him something that changed his life. a scholarship from the company, mentorship, and a flexible work schedule that allowed him to guard at night while studying by day. But more than the financial support, she gave him belief, proof that someone saw his struggle and cared enough to lift him. The years that followed were not without challenges. Daniel's aunt eventually passed, leaving him grief-stricken, and there were semesters when coursework nearly crushed him. But every time doubt crept in, he remembered that night in the garage, the voice that told him his struggle mattered. And step by step, exam by exam, he rose. He graduated at the top of his class, not just with a degree but with a purpose, to give back, to stand as a beacon for others walking the lonely paths he once knew so well. The company welcomed him as an engineer, and eventually he led projects that transformed communities, creating jobs and inspiring young people who once thought they too had no chance. The CEO remained close, not just as his boss but as his mentor. She often told others about the night she found Daniel, sitting on a cold garage floor with only a flashlight and a dream. And every time she told that story, she ended it the same way. Greatness doesn't always shine in boardrooms. Sometimes it glows quietly in the dark corners of parking garages, waiting for someone to notice. And Daniel himself, whenever asked what kept him going through the darkest nights, would smile and say, a flashlight, a book, and the hope that tomorrow would be brighter. Friends, this story is not just about Daniel or one CEO. It is about all of us, about the silent battles we fight when no one is watching, about the resilience that grows when the world expects us to quit, and about the miracles that can happen when kindness meets determination. If this story touched your heart, I'd love for you to share your thoughts below. Your comments keep the spirit of these stories alive. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Together, we can spread stories that remind us of the power of compassion, resilience, and hope. Because sometimes all it takes to change a life is a guard, a flashlight, and a book.